right away. Let's talk about the James Harden situation because it's getting weird. It's James Harden demanding another trade. You know, things happen on a yearly basis. There's Thanksgiving, there's Christmas, 4th of July, Summer League, and James Harden trade demands. Like, it's just kind of a yearly thing at this point. So, my question, I'm going to start with Riv here. What team should pursue James Harden?
Ah, obviously the Clippers. I think that's been the one team on the radar. I think Miami should definitely think about a James Harden move if Dame doesn't become available, because that's another guy who could come in, get you buckets, be a playmaker. You lost Gabe Vincent, you lost Max Strus, so you lost two guys. Gabe Vincent specifically, who was very important for your championship run. But I think those are the only two teams that would seem in the best interest. I know Harden came out. They came out with a report, I want to say yesterday or 2 days ago, where Harden is very sold on going to the Clippers. And for the Clippers, they've been looking for this point guard for a long time. They tried it with John Wall. They tried it with Westbrook. Westbrook was good, but Paul George and Kawhi weren't healthy. Harden brings that perfect dynamic as a point guard, as a playmaker to this situation, and he can possibly be the number 3 option. I think that's what he's best at this point in his career. I think a number 2, he's just too inconsistent for that right now. And the number 3 would be perfect. So I would probably say the Clippers or Miami would be the two teams likely, because those are the two teams. Like, the Warriors aren't going to do it. Denver isn't going to do it in the West. The Bucks aren't going to do it. Those are the two teams that are looking to make a move as a championship team. So I think these would be the two teams.
Zach?
Yeah, the Clippers are probably the one that makes the most sense. Other than them, I can't, it's hard to really think of teams. I think if this team got desperate enough, needing a Fred VanVleet replacement, I think, maybe the Raptors could make a little bit of sense. I probably wouldn't do that for them, but that team was one of the worst half-court scoring teams in the NBA last year, and they lack it so much, and they need like Dennis Smith, Dennis Schroeder. I don't think that's going to really work out if you want to make a playoff push at all. So we'll see what they really want to do. If they want to, keep OG and all those guys, it would seem like they would want to be going for the playoffs. So, maybe go throw a little assets at James Harden if you really want to push to like the 6th seed, which I don't really get the point of doing that, but maybe that's the direction the Raptors want to go. But yeah, the Clippers make the most sense, and I don't think it's going to take an insane amount to get Harden from Philly unless Morey, takes us into the season, which he probably will. I think it might be take like Terrence Mann and the rest of their picks or whatever, but it's debatable if they should rather do that or not.
Yeah, I think the teams you guys mentioned make a lot of sense. I mean, from a Miami standpoint, trying to find just a tertiary scorer on a team that is very defensive and culture minded, but defensively, that's kind of the, that's the top priority, but they need scoring because that was the worst offense in the NBA and it made the finals somehow. And Zach talked about, Toronto. I mean, don't love that fit. Like, if you're Toronto, like, what are you trying to do at this point? Like, are you just like, we're praying for 48 wins? Is that the pride of the organization? Like, that's the one thing about it. But I get the idea of like finding a point guard replacement and that standpoint. But guys, I'm so out on James Harden. I'm just done with him. It's 2020. Since 2020, how many trade demands does this guy have? Like 3?
3, something like that.
Has anybody in NBA history ever had 3 different trade demands?
Off the top of my head, probably not.
I don't think so. No, did Dwight? Dwight had 3?
No, not 3.
Maybe 2, right?
Yeah. His
Might have been 2.
His leverage wasn't high enough the third time around.
Okay. I'm trying to think. I don't think anybody really.
Like, if you're an NBA team, how do you trust that? Are you really going to go all in on a guy who's in his mid-30s right now, somebody who is not a consistent playoff performer, somebody who is regressing, demanding a crap ton of money, and on top of that, he might demand a trade from you next year? Like, how do you trust that? I'm out on it. Like, if I'm the Clippers, like, that is like maybe the only situation, but I don't even love that because I don't trust the Clippers right now, period. We're 4 years into this, and it's consistent. Kawhi injuries, Paul George injuries, who's playing, who's not, rumors that the locker room hates each other. Is James Harden going to come in and help the locker room culture on the Los Angeles Clippers? That just feels like more dynamite, in my opinion. Can James Harden really handle a Miami culture? He can definitely handle the Miami clubs, but can he handle Pat Riley? Like, I don't trust the guy. I wouldn't touch him if I'm any NBA team because the level of maintenance this guy requires in terms of financial and just overall like commitment that you're putting into a guy you're expecting to be a franchise player, but hasn't proven to be a guy who can be, a top number 1 or number 2 guy. Is the number 3 option really worth that risk of just like, okay, he might not want to be here next year because he always has his reasons and you don't know what he's going to do in the fall. Maybe he's going to end up, on my pandemic diet and then decide, okay, let's go. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't trust the guy. I don't think he's worth the level of maintenance he's demanding. This is not 2018 anymore. A lot has changed since then. I'm out on him. I'm sorry. I'm out on him.
And then you top that with what he's going to be potentially making in the upcoming free agency.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't know how much he's going to demand with how the market's going right now and how much guys are getting paid. I mean, can you afford to pay a third player on your team like $40 million with the new CBA? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen with Phoenix, they don't care, because he'll be making probably a little bit less than Bradley Beal. So we've seen that certain GMs, and I know Ballmer isn't going to care. Like, I know Ballmer is one of those GMs with like, listen, I'll pay for whatever needs to be done to get to a championship. And for the Clippers, they're just as desperate as any other team to make this work. Yeah. Like you said, they're 4 years in. It's been choke, injury. So at this point, you're just trying to bring in as much talent and make this and try to flip this thing around to just bring a ring to to Clipper Town, because you got to the WCF first time in history for the team. Now the next goal is to get to a championship. You're hoping Harden can flip the switch, be that third guy, not bring. And he said Westbrook's there now. He really wants to go there. Oh, this we've heard it before, nonsense. But Clippers seem like the one team I feel like that has to make that gamble, because you're at the end of the line here. Paul George is up for an extension. Kawhi's up for an extension. At this point, do you want to risk paying those guys $220 million and they barely play 45 games? It's just, you got to take the risk. It's all about winning championships for a team like that, So you got to take the risk at this point, or it's stay in Philly.
It's one of those things, right? Like, think about it in real life. If there's this one girl who's dated 30 guys and you just been an absolute loner for 2 years, are you going to be the guy that says, you know what, I need a girlfriend, I'm going to start dating her? Like, come on, the Clippers, it's just like
these analogies are random, bro.
Like, if you're the Clippers, it's like, okay, man, that is the part you're coming from. You're coming from desperation. I'll tell you this, whatever industry you're in, whatever part you are in life, if you're making decisions off of desperation, it's probably not going to work out. So maybe you have to look at yourself hard in the mirror and say, okay, is this Kawhi and Paul George thing really it? And I don't think it is. So from the Clippers perspective, the reason why I'm saying I wouldn't touch Harden if I'm them either, it's like, okay, maybe we should blow it up instead. So I don't even think that's the ideal circumstance, but the closest thing, like you're saying, Griff, which I totally agree with you, is the closest thing to that ideal circumstance is the Clippers. Like, but that's not coming from a good place. That's coming from desperation. And that's what's dangerous. And yeah.
I wonder if like, it might sound kind of weird to hear this, but like, they have a new stadium coming, and if they want to put butts in seats, I wonder, like, I feel like you can be fine with, having just Kawhi and Paul George, but do you send all the chips in to go get Harden as well? I mean, you're gonna have to pay him after this offseason as well, because the new stadium doesn't come in for a little bit, I don't think. But
that's a good point, because you got to think.
That's a great point. Yeah.
One time, like, we could say whatever you want about Harden in the playoffs, and I agree with you. He's hilarious in the playoffs, but in the regular season, he's been pretty solid. And when he needs to take over games, he has been able to take over games in the regular season. So maybe Harden brings in some leverage where you can load manage PG, you can load manage Kawhi a lot. But we've seen with Kawhi, even if you load manage him, he still can get hurt. So that's also the dangerous part. But you got to look at the aspect of the West. Can this Clippers team right now come out the West?
No.
Denver, probably not. Phoenix just got Bradley Beal. But if you bring in James Harden as that third guy, does your chances increase? Probably, yeah. You're not going to give up. Let's be realistic. You're going to give up T-Man and maybe Marcus Morris and one more guy. Yeah. Like James Harden can very comfortably, defensively maybe not, but offensively he can definitely give you what all those guys give you. So you got to always look at the upgrade, especially in the West right now. It's insane out there.
I just don't think he's going to get you over the top. I agree it gets you better, But I think the Clippers have so many problems. I don't think he's going to be the answer to get ahead of a team like Denver or even a team like Memphis. I mean, Memphis has its own problems, but a team like Memphis at its peak, I think, has more potential than the Clippers at this point. So
I saw you tweet that too. I was gonna ask you about that. No, it wasn't tweet, it was Instagram. It was one of those. I've seen it on Instagram.
I think I posted it on both.
Yeah, and you were like, Memphis could go. You said something about Memphis.
They're my number 2 team if they keep their head together.
Yeah, and I was curious about that because they lack shooting. They really lack a half court offense. Honestly, they're at the bottom of the league. So what makes you? Are you saying like Jaren has to reach this certain level, Ja has to reach this certain level? Like, why did you say that?
Take certain things. I think the first thing is Ja doesn't play with guns. That's obviously number 1.
Of course, yeah.
Number 2, I would say that I agree with the half court thing. I agree with the shooting thing. But I would say like Memphis has had a borderline top 10 offense the last 2 years despite that. And I think in the West right now, every team is so flawed in some certain element. Even Denver is not a great defensive team, right? So I think every team has a flaw, but I think Memphis can hang its hat on one thing. I think this team has a chance to be maybe the best defense in the conference next year. They got the best defensive duo in the league. I think no brainer, right? Between Marcus Smart and Jaren Jackson Jr. And they built this culture of physicality surrounding that, which usually complements the defensive end when you have 2 great guys like that. So this defense should be way up there. And that by itself gives itself an opportunity to be up there. And the offense should be good enough too. And if Jaren Jackson Jr. takes another like 19 to 20 point per game leap, and we see, slight progression from Desmond Bane, slight progression from Ja Morant, they should have a pretty good offense still, especially if they start seeing these like random Memphis young players like a Laravia or a Roddy start to, become established rotational players. I think Memphis has the best chance to be the number 2 team in the West if they keep their head together, because I don't think Phoenix is ever going to be able to outdo Denver, what they do in terms of identity. And at the same time, I think Memphis, in terms of pure matchups, you're stopping Jamal Murray. They got the best defensive guard in the conference. You have to stop Nikola Jokic. Nobody's stopping Nikola Jokic, but at least you got the defensive player of the year in the paint, right? So I'm considering matchups and just overall identity. And I think in the West, identity matters because every team is flawed.
Okay. It's not bad. I liked it. It was very good, convincing. I just think that having a half-court offense in the playoffs is extremely important. So if they could fix that, I'm with you. Memphis could definitely be a serious threat.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there anything we want to talk about regarding this topic still, or should we transition within the Sixers still?
Oh, James Harden. I don't know, man. This guy, I don't know.
This is gonna drag out for a while. That's my guess.
Him and Dame, bro. I need him and Dame to figure it out.
Bro, he's gonna send Daryl Morey. Don't mess with that guy. He's sending Harden to Portland, man. Let's be honest here.